Okay, and we're back. Let's see, what do I need here? Nobody watching. Nobody's watching. Okay, we got Linda in here. Oh, we got 7 of you. That was fast. How are you doing, Linda? I called you. You didn't answer. And it's 44. Hi again, Cheryl. Nikki's back. Cabin Kenny. Howdy. Cabin Kenny. Okay, now let's see. How do we get this started? Okay. This isn't the video yet. One of my many unfinished projects. I don't know. I can't ever finish anything, right? Okay, we'll do this. Turn up the sound so that you can hear it. I think it'll be fairly loud. Just to get a bit of a backgrounder again on Cobequid.
On the night of April 18th through the 19th about Cobequid Court?
No, I do not.
Hello,
Okay.
Ocean.
Why is that?
Why is that? Cobequid Court?
Yes.
I don't understand what you're getting at.
Okay, I'm just wondering, so we know that 41 and 46 Cobequid Court contained a total of 5 victims of this mass casualty. And I'm just wondering, based on your recollection, if anyone turned their mind to Cobequid Court specifically through the night?
Cobequid Court? No.
Okay. Did you look at a map and see that Cobequid Court was contained within Portapique?
Yes, we knew the roads were there.
So you knew Cobequid Court was within Portapique?
Yeah, along with the other roads.
Okay. So when I look at the Colchester comms, and that's your main form of communications with members, correct?
Yes.
The radio traffic?
Yes.
So when I look at the comms from 10 o'clock that night to 11 o'clock the next morning, there's roughly 6,000 lines of text, and there's not one reference to Cobequid Court. And so my question is, besides looking at that radio traffic, but you're telling us you have no recollection of Cobequid Court?
No conversation specific to that roadway, no.
Okay. And in terms of Cobequid Court, we know that it appears that the first member on scene in Cobequid Court was 4:46 p.m. on April 19th. And that was 46 Cobequid Court. Do you know that, or?
I can't speak to that.
Were you aware of that fact?
No.
So that's 19 hours after this mass casualty began. And it's my understanding that's when the bonds at 4:46 and the Oliver Tucks at roughly 4:50 were discovered. Can either of you speak to that 19 hours in terms of what happened?
Okay, I'm going to review what that is in a moment, but just take note what that is. 2 times female in other room, plastic door.
I think it's pretty clear what happened up until 11:25.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we need to go over all that again. And at that point, it transitions to a
Really?
major crime
You decide that.
scene. And admittedly, there were a lot of areas to search, a lot of places to go, and a lot of crime scenes to manage.
You indicated that the evacuation efforts, I think when you said when things cooled down a bit, is that when?
I think I mentioned that once we had the opportunity to start working on an evacuation plan, once we saw that how it was going to be a protracted event, we started to work on our evacuation plan.
And that was at roughly 2:50.
I think, I believe we had conversations throughout the night about evacuation and all that, but once it was later in the morning when we started to have our discussions as to how we were going to facilitate an evacuation plan.
Yeah, I remember being part of those discussions, so it was after 5:40.
Okay. So just to put it into perspective, I wish I could just recall everything on screen like that, but 5:50 in the morning, okay? You've got the fucking board on the wall since 2:50. They want to maintain that they don't hear anything. Really, maybe there's explosions, maybe there are bullet sounds. They're playing all angles. Well, he's in there, he's not in there, we don't know. Listen, you knew there was somebody else during these hearings that I can't remember whose it was. I think it was the responding officers, Baselts, etc. I'll have to go back and get the clip that said that they were asked and that they heard a bullet from down south, what they thought was a gunshot from down south. So you before 10:48, I think it was before 10:48. Yes. Is that correct? Okay, I'm not 100% on the timeline on that one because I'm just doing it by memory. But they heard the and then they just chose just not to regard it. Right? They're just like, well, whatever. And of course, we're talking about Cobequid. And Cobequid, I think I'm going to lay out some pieces and see what do you guys think? Because I think there's a lot more there, like a lot more there that they don't want to talk about. Okay, so 5:50. Now, if nothing is going on down there and he leaves at 10:48, you have the board on your wall, okay, with Cobequid. You're aware of it since at least 2:50. Come on. Obviously, you'd be aware of it anyway before then, but you're certainly aware of it at 2:50. And if there's nothing happening after 10:48, why does it take you until 4:48 the next day to do anything about it? Why does it take you're still having discussions? Let's hear.
Facilitate an evacuation plan.
Yeah, I remember being part of those discussions, so it was after 5:40.
Why is there any discussions? Why does there need to be discussions? You've now been sitting on it for fucking hours. Hours and hours and hours. And people may or may not be dying down there. God only knows. This is the tragic part for the Bonds and the Tucks and the Olivers, Tuck Olivers, the Oliver family. Okay? Because I think that leaves it open, just as it does, funnily enough, in any of these situations. We certainly know about Heather, right? And how they regarded that. It was just kind of, can we get a blanket and put it on top of her? Well, but she was alive. And you chose not to do anything. Okay, now let's go to a different clip.
You have
that was West and Surratt, Staff Sergeant West and Surratt.
a recollection of being at Cobequid Court at any time during your time in the scene containment or management?
I remember driving Cobequid Court. I believe it was that day. I know I was down another day with staff holiday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's two pieces in here. I don't want to confuse things. I think the second piece is in here also, which is going to talk about the blueberry field. And I do want to talk about that too.
But over to the east side. I remember driving down there. That was heading towards the blueberry field where the egress was, and driving down there, I see, basically a chain. I believe it's a chain, or I think it was a chain barrier or a wire barrier across the top of a couple of fence posts.
Okay, let's deal with the chain first. Let's deal with the chain. Chain, wire. Okay, so it's observed. Oh, wait.
With providing access to the blueberry field.
Okay, and are you able to estimate or give us some sense of what time that would have been when you made that observation?
Between 10 and 12, I believe I probably left Portapique Beach Road area around 12. So yeah, between 10 and 12 is when I drove down.
Okay, so you can throw that in with the other thing because there's people zooming around down there and nobody thinks just to look to the right, even though you had the evacuation board and you're down there. No. Let's go back to Blueberry Field Road. Now, Carroll in his statement says when he was down there between 10 and 12, he observed the wire chain fence across the fence posts up. They were up. It was up. Okay, up. Now, I asked this question a few times in the past. This is utterly, utterly illogical. Put yourself in the middle of the dark, in the woods, wherever, think about camping if you guys are from the city, it's dark. And you're now also on the run. You're the most pursued person probably in the world at this point in time, at any given moment. And so you're going to, if the RCMP story is to be believed from the 1035 to the then 1048, which the 1035, where's the fucking witness for that? Oh, suddenly we have nothing. Okay, saw some lights. All right, fair enough. Now, 1048. Okay, so he's going to drive. Put yourself in the shoes. Okay, so you're doing all these horrendous things in very unbelievably quick successive order, and then you're being pursued, and there's lots of police around. So you're like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna use that Blueberry Field Road. Okay, fair. Now you encounter the wire chain, right? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna get out of your car. You're gonna take the wire and chain down, right? You're gonna drive through, place your car into park, get out of your car in the dark while you're the most pursued person, and put the chain back up and get back in your car and drive down the road. Not logical, right? Now, that was the next day, right? Let's go to I don't have all this queued up, so I'll just have to do it on the fly, which is generally what I do. I do have them open and already queued on other tabs, which is unfortunate. Okay. First off, let's start with this. Have that? No. Maybe?
Set of questions.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Can you describe where the rope was?
Oh wait, actually, sorry. Let me back up. Well, I'll give you a time frame. I'll give you a time frame, but she can say it herself. Yeah, let's let her say it in her own words. Let's just start around here.
There's people like, everywhere. So no, not really like picking it apart or anything. Because it was like, I'm on my property, I only got so many minutes and I had to go.
Yes.
And
Patterson
people
Law,
everywhere.
Rob Pinio.
Okay, and when you say people everywhere, who were these people?
Please.
Police, okay. And how long were you at home for?
20 minutes maybe. In and out, like, checking to see. Surprised my house was there.
When do you next recall assessing the entranceway to the Blueberry Field Road after April 18th?
Do you mean when I came back with my husband?
Yes. Right.
There was a lot of activity. There's police everywhere, bomb dogs. They were taking down tents. They had, the police had tents in the Blueberry Field.
Okay, that's the military.
There was RCP in my yard and they were talking to me. We were looking at the Blueberry Field because we were turned that way. And I noticed that half of the top of the post was gone, like the bottom part was gone, like split off. And I mentioned that, holy, what happened there? Someone drove through there. Where's the rope? Where's that? So I walked over to it. And the rope was still, the nylon rope, the loop was still attached to the top. And it was swung over, like when you drive through it, to this side where it was stable. So that really surprised me how that side was so stable. It was almost like a joke how it was like, wow, look at that,
Okay, well, I'm interested in understanding this observation that you made. So I began by asking you when you first came back to Portapique after April 18th, and you described returning to your residence. Was it on this return that you made the observation you just described, or is it on a different occasion?
When I returned with my husband, so it's See, the first time I was only allowed there for a few minutes, but then I was allowed to come back because we were told we weren't allowed back in. We had to
Okay.
wait because they were busy inside. The RSMP were busy, so we weren't allowed in there. So we had to wait until, I think Tom Tager was telling us that when we were allowed back in. And so we were allowed to stand there and be on our property. And that's when I was observing everything going on around me and what was different and seeing all these people.
Okay. And on this occasion that you returned with your husband,
Yes,
how long after April 18th?
I think he said a week,
And who said a week?
my husband.
Okay, and what do you remember yourself?
They just, yeah, I think it was like a week, the next week.
Okay.
But there were conditions. You know, we weren't allowed off our property. I wanted to go look for stuff, but
And how long did you stay for?
when I returned,
Mm-hmm.
I was there.
Okay. And you began to describe the entrance point to the Blueberry Field Road as you observed it when you returned with your husband. So you mentioned the state of the rope being different.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you describe where the rope was?
It was on the right side because this post was broken on the,
Okay.
someone drove through it.
And
So the top part was swung over to the right side against that post, laying there on the rocks and still attached. And of course, it was still, the regular post on that side was still tied to the other tree, like brace well.
Okay. So right now we are still looking at an image, which is photograph 4 on exhibit 282, and we see the post with the number 3 on top. What was the state of that post when you returned?
It was gone, right? Like.
What do you
top
mean by
part,
gone?
It was over on this side.
Okay, was it standing?
The post was laying on the ground with the rope still on it, close to the original post on this side, laying on the ground with the nylon rope still on it. It was surprising, but it was still attached. The loop was still on it, and it was swung over, like it snapped. It snapped on this side that you see with the 3 and swung over to this side.
Okay. Do you recall if there was any part of the post, and again, we're talking about the post with the 3 on top, was there any part of the post still in the ground where in its usual state?
There was a little bit, yes, like where it was snapped into. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And the remainder of the post, again, could you describe what side of where was it located?
You should go back to the other picture.
Which other picture? I can do that.
Of the other side where there's the post, the other
Okay.
post, because that's where it is.
So I think that may be picture number 2 in the same exhibit.
Okay, see that post? See the post with the white sign? In
Yes.
the picture? It's over, so what broke off, how it swung around and it ended up on that side on the ground. Just like it exploded on this side. It just flew over on that side. That's where I found it.
Okay, so she sees the rope snapped. The rope, which I think is pretty critical because To her, it's a rope. To Al Carroll, it was a wire or a chain. Again, you're factoring in the logic of driving down there, being pursued, taking it down, putting it back up. But then you have to factor in what she says about how it snapped. You can build in the rope chain part, which is kind of problematic because she says it's a rope before she leaves. Al Carroll sees it the next day. It's a wire or a chain. And then a few days later, it's a rope again. Okay, maybe that's observation. It's up. You drive through it, you put it back up. Al Carroll sees it being put back up, or sees it sees it up when he goes down and doesn't happen to go over just to the right there where the evacuation order has been in place for now, that they would be surely aware of, as in the CIC board is up with the evacuation orders and Cobequid is underneath of it, 2:50 in the morning to bare minimum, he says between 10 and 12. So we'll do 10, and that's going to be 7 hours and 10 minutes, right? Anywhere between 7 hours and 10 minutes to 9 hours and 10 minutes by this point, that you know that there's an evacuation order. There's nobody going through there clearly and doing anything. Definitely not after 9:30 in your narrative. Why is it that you have such a difficult time going over? It's difficult to separate these two topics because Dorrington liked to go over there and hang out. He stopped for a brief moment outside of the bonds. He stopped for a brief moment outside of the at the corner, the Oliver Tuck corner. Okay, for now there's give or take, because you got to take the time in between the GPS and stuff and drive time, but it looks like probably 30 seconds, 45 seconds. He stopped over there. Then he gets the wellness check. Okay, I don't want to go away. Sorry, I don't want to stray away from the. Why is it that Debbie Thibault is not asked about the fact that the military vehicles are in there? Did they snap this fucking rope, chain, blah, blah, whatever it is? Did they snap it? They were trying to bamboozle people into, oh, he drove through it. But the problem was Carroll said it was up. The problem is Carroll said it was up in his interview. Now, going back to, because I'll just leave that alone. That whole thing, this whole interview with or mass casualty thing was an absolute disaster. Subsequent to this one, I read through her statement aloud, and I'll tell you, that was just the oddest thing. And yeah, she needed a lawyer when she's not down there. She wasn't down there on the 18th and 19th. Yet she has the family's lawyer, Rob Pinio, was there for the questioning. Why? Because you want to describe a post? But nobody said to her, like, listen, was it the military that snapped it? Why didn't they go in any further and inquire about over to the military? Did you guys ram the post? Nobody seemed to care. Instead, they tried to use it and say, oh, yeah, by the way, that's what happened. But it was up. Okay. Now, back to Cobequid. So you have, this is the order of things as I've seen them. First of all, nobody deals with anything over on Cobequid. That's very, to me, extraordinarily purposeful. Why? Because there's all kinds of problematic things going on Cobequid. So they don't want to. They don't want to. Yeah, I'm going a little bit tinfoily, but they just don't want to. I'll throw the tinfoil pieces in. Now, and I have before, but I think it's important to put it all in. So the first mention that we have really of Cobequid is the Dorrington is down there. But what time is that at? 10. Oh, sorry. You can just keep going after stuff. And they all spider out. And me, I don't do well with that just because I got things balanced kind of in my head. Okay, so here we go over to Dorrington's notes, right? Dorrington's notes. Dorrington, who, by the way, and this must be kept into perspective, Dorrington, the three amigos, I call them the three amigos, called them that for a long time. Somebody wants to play with that. Okay, fine. Three amigos, Dorrington, Lafferty, and Rodney MacDonald, all self-dispatched, just like Andy O'Brien, and no code of conducts. That's a big problem. Based out of evidence from Amherst, Sergeant Joby, and nobody's followed up on that. What the fuck are you guys doing? All right, so if we fast forward in his notes, we'll have an entry here for the 11:10 wellness check. Now, keep in mind, he is down from I don't know, what time did he get there? About 7, I think, was that? Or no, sorry. He was down in around Portapique 7 o'clock. He was going around the roads. He's already been on Cobequid Court, the dead end street where he stops. One moment. Come on. I wish I was good at driver as Adrian with the Google Earth. But come on. Go over this way. There we go. Okay. So this is Nick Dorrington's GPS. There's Cobequid. Dead end street. Carol didn't want to deal with it, didn't want to do anything. There's nothing going on. Nobody's doing anything, but no, you've got the board on there. You can't deal with it. All right, whatever, man. Come on. Don't blow smoke up my ass. 10:26, he's driving down there. I'm repeating stuff that some people know, but I'll get into some other stuff. Okay, and here he is. He stopped in front of the bonds. 10:26:47. Okay, goes back out to the intersection. He stopped there. Okay. 10/27/47, 10/28/15. Oliver Tucks live here, this area. Okay. 10/28. "42 minutes later, you get a call for a wellness check. Cheryl Blakey. You note it in your notebook. You're in Portapique until 5:35. Relieved by the person that you, funnily enough, should have consulted about self-dispatching, the one that's gone under the bus hard. Okay, you didn't go? What were you supposed to do again? O'Brien asked you to look for bodies. Okay. Can you not observe bodies in doorways with the door open and somebody there when you're stopped in front of their residence? You can't do that? You get the wellness check. 42 minutes later, till you decide how to deal with that. Well, you're going to go and sit at 123. You're going to drive around a bunch. You're going to go elsewhere in Portapique. And then you're going to go and sit at 123. But don't worry about that wellness check. Sorry? Okay, next. We have Peterson. Bent. Well, I've shown it before, it doesn't matter. Funny enough, though, I am curious where the photo that they had that they admitted into evidence came from, because it's not mine. So I don't know where they suddenly got it from. It's not mine. Because the one they admitted into evidence see if I can, maybe I can find it. Just give me a second. No, it's not that one. Okay, here we go. Okay. So then now we're at 1:15. 2 hours later, after the wellness check from that Dorrington has noted, which would have gone through the channels, nobody decided to pick up on. Wayne decides to send a text to Aaron. And those of you who have been watching for a while know that, the day that Wayne was on, I was pushing for this hard, and it did get admitted into evidence. What got admitted This is the picture I have. Okay, I'll try and keep his phone number out of it. Okay, you can see it's a picture of a screen, right? It's a picture of a screen. What is admitted is this. It's a different picture. The one I had was being sent around to all the lawyers. I don't know where this one came from. I'm curious. Hopefully we will find out, because I want to know. Mine doesn't have a phone in it. Mine isn't a picture of a phone sitting on a desk with a computer keyboard in the background. Mine is the picture of a computer screen with the text on it. That being said, I'm just throwing different points out here. Please don't get distracted, but they're just points. This is now, we're in 2 hours, 5 minutes later. Okay, still can't do anything about Cobequid. Okay. Now, depending on where you read from, you will get different results. There are several officers that are involved with this. And there are more than people are being led to believe. Down on Cobequid, because a phone call is placed. A phone call is placed, and again, I would say it's divine. It just happens to be, doesn't matter who it is, but it just happened to be divine intervention. The fact that Rodney Peterson picked up Tara's call for some reason. He picked it up and he's like, oh, what? You're looking for your brother? Yeah, I'll send somebody. He talks about the evacuation. He thought it might be the evacuation center. He might have been evacuated over there, because he doesn't know what's really, I think there were certain people that knew a lot more than others. So he's like, well, I'll call down there and I'll get Jarrett to look, or sorry, he calls over to the evacuation center. He says, I'll call you back, to Tara. He calls the evacuation center, I would presume. He then places a phone call to Jarrett McDonald at 3:11, if you read Jarrett's notes, which we should have a look at, because there's a bit of a discrepancy. A fairly big one, I would say. Now, if you go to the website, you put in the name, Jarrett. Oh, sorry, this is on video. You will get one document. You will get his officer report. Officer reports are based on your notes. Your notes are taken ideally chronologically, right? Okay. This takes a little unwinding, and I tried to get this done, or anyways, let's just leave it. Visually, I'm hoping will be helpful. So this is what we get. The typed report based on handwritten notes. The handwritten notes just kind of to help keep people in, and we'll put it over here so that I don't lose it. Okay. Now, one result, right? One, that's it. But if you do this, take out the 1T, you'll get 2. Okay, now we've got handwritten notes. the originals, right? That's what he's writing his member report on. So let's bring this one over and let's do this. Okay, so we're going to go back to the handwritten notes first and foremost. And we'll kind of flash back and forth. And you'll see that some of this is based on what he's writing down. 937. He's got some stuff in here. Okay, if you flash forward to this one, seems to be, I don't quite get, because when speaking to somebody, they're like, no, you shouldn't be crossing out the time and writing a new time. That should not be in your notes. But okay, let's leave that one aside. There's another little funny one. All right, so he's got his list of stuff here. Okay, Cedric Landry, where people are posted, blah, 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 right? Take over scene commander at Portapique. Okay, there it is here, right? Okay. Numerous reports for checks on residence by family via MWS. Throughout shift, mobile workstation, OCC, persons inquiring about well-being. Okay. Matching so far, right? Checked on, went to 246 Cobequid first. Male deceased inside door. Female deceased on living room floor. This is the bonds. Okay. 241 Cobequid court. Male inside door 2 times, female in other room, plastic door. 2 times, female. Emily and Jolene, right? But they said to everybody, well, we didn't find that. What we found was 1, which would have been Jolene, according to what they say. What does his type? Okay, let's to just see that it's based on his notes. Files created by OCC. That is what happens when you call in. So he called in and over the radio, which we'll look at, and he's like, "Oh, there's stuff I'm finding here." You know, that immediately generates a file within the database. Paper trail. Okay. I maintain that I don't think they ever wanted the paper trail. Okay, let's go over to here. OCC persons about well-being in area. Okay. Additional. All right. Corporal McDonald notified OCC and file was created. We're still following chronological order here. Corporal McDonald returned to number 2, spoke with Brad Wood. Corporal Brad Wood and myself to check, unknown if other residences are checked. Okay, because he's the first. Corporal Brad Wood and myself to check all others OCC advise. Corporal McDonald, Wood, and Bent, they go down and decide additional resources, blah, blah, blah. McDonald to advise OCC. Corporal McDonald and Bent search outbuildings, Orchard Beach, Bayview, Cobequid Court, Portapique. Okay. And myself check all residences, Orchard Beach. Okay. So I'm just doing this to demonstrate that it's following a linear order. Why does he have here, following the linear order, this is his initial discovery. 41, truck and driveway, could hear television playing, main door, male was lying inside door shot. Corporal McDonald could see one additional person through the homemade door. File created. Or what was it? Or was it 2? Like his original notes seem to say. issue. All right, let's go to plus he adds in Bant, right? Because Bant wasn't in his original notes. Now, Bant was on the stand saying, oh, you know, then I went and searched it. Okay, so now we've got Wood, Bant, and Jarrett, right? Let's go to Colchester Radio. Okay, here is the evening one. No need to adjust the time on this because, well, I don't know. This one didn't come from Ottawa. Okay, so we're going to go through, actually, give me one moment here, and I'll just pull up the one that's... So we'll back up to 4:46 because that's the time that he says that he's down there. Jared. Here we go. Just doing an inquiry down here. By the way, oops, one other thing I wanted to point out with his notes. I'd say this is maybe something that's based on this. I'm not sure. Female from Alberta inquiring about sister that lives at 41. Okay, that would be the Olivers. And this is just going by what the site says. If you go to the site and you look up, what document is that? Peterson's document, and also in the foundational document. It's not based on a call from Alberta. It's based on Saskatchewan, which is Tara. I think they're doing a dig, would be my opinion. Now, let's go back to here. All right, so we've got Bant getting thrown in now, additionally. So we have Wood, Jarrett, and Bant, which will eventually come in. I believe it's new. Jarrett's still down there by himself. 46 Cobequid Court, down to the right. Okay. Here's Rodney saying, is that the Audible guy I was inquiring about a while ago? Okay, so he's talking about Aaron. Right? There's only one guy. No, he said. That's 46. 41 is the house that you're inquiring about. I don't know how he's got the address right here, and he's got it wrong in his notebook. Because somehow, and I tend to believe that your notebook, sorry, what am I trying to say? I tend to believe that if you're going to put 200s, as in you mistaken the address, 246, 241, that sounds human to me, that you're going to get it wrong, but I don't know. Maybe he just wrote it and then he was calling it over the radio correct. Whatever. Moving along. 46 Cobequid Court, just down to the right, down to the end of the road. Okay, and you'll see Dave Lilly's in here. also, but he's not called by name. Okay, so Jarrett, here's Jarrett again. I'm checking on 41 down here, just a second. So now he's over at Aaron's. 41 Cobequid. There's a male and a female deceased. I believe that's new as well. Okay, so in the radio logs, now it's a male and a female. In his handwritten notes, it's 2, even though that's following consecutive order. Do you follow? Okay, he moves along. Somehow, did he originally discover Aaron, Jolene, and Emily? That makes sense. It really does, because I don't see how what they're saying happens to be true, that you can only see one of them. No, you'd be able to see both. All right, moving along. Okay, this is Dave Lilly here. Can I get you to head down to Portapique? We have a new location, 41 Cobequid Court here. I need scene security. Nathan Forrest, 10-4. I'm on my way. Okay, so now we have Nathan Forrest. Dave, do you copy? Okay, Rodney's talking to... yeah, I had somebody inquiring about their relatives who live up there, 41. Okay, that's Tara. Do you have people taking those types of calls here? I would assume. Okay, he starts to... My feeling, and this is my opinion, and reading his documents, whether it be his affidavit, his statements, his member statements, his notes, which actually, sorry, let me give you a second here. Actually, I don't have that written down on this one. What does he have? He definitely has an MCC statement, an affidavit, and or an MCC interview, his statement. In reading these, okay, actually, I'm sorry, I'm confusing things. Okay, let's just stay here. All right, so he starts. Yeah, well, actually, I will say it. I would say, my opinion, Rodney Peterson starts to doubt what he just did. I think he realizes that he may have made a mistake. Because as soon as he did this, what did Bent do? What did Bent do? Right? So Jarrett gets on the radio. He's like, oh, I'm finding these bodies. You're going to see some more anomalies here. This is why it's fucking difficult. 0419. Okay. There are 2 sets of handwritten notes for the 19th. And there is only one. Well, there are 2 differences. Okay? This is the old one. 3 victims found at 41 Cobequid, male laying at door, 2 females inside door. Rose, Berthium, updated. 2 victims found at 46, inside door, behind door. Okay. One second here. Bear with me. We'll go to the second set. This one over here. Okay. The second set. The only difference in the second set between the second set and the first set is the location of the bodies. That's it. Okay. Well, maybe that might make sense, I suppose, if somebody objected to something. Not sure quite how it's harmful. It's not. But it's the date. The date that's fucking spooky. Because I noticed it when Skippy was giving his testimony. How am I going to find it? 073794. Will that help me find it? Shit. When Skippy gives his testimony, he gives not Cobequid. Cobequid found. Oh fuck, man! I had this all lined up yesterday. That was not going as planned. I want to shut down Windows. Fuck. If you go back through what it is if you go back through his testimony, you'll see that the COM number that they're using is the one with redactions. And I was like, I've seen this document before. But I haven't seen the redactions. So I did a search on my computer. I've shown this before too. I'm just piecing different ones together here. I did a search on my computer. Okay. So I have lots of copies of different things, right? Lots of copies. Because I like to download and make sure I've got, so they're changing stuff, right? Now, if you notice the original download dates, okay? This one is the new, the 3794. Okay, so 45 has it redacted, right? 45 has it redacted. When does that come out? The day after Skippy's testimony. But the unredacted version has been up since April. And then they added the redactions. Why would you have to do that? Location of bodies.
Moved Mr. or Mrs. Bond prior to photos being taken?
I never took any photos. I can't imagine that anybody else would take.
I want you to take
I
careful.
didn't try to close.
I want you to take very careful note of how he answers the question. Again, I'm repeating other pieces of data that have been here before, but I want you to take careful note, those of you who haven't heard him, how he answers the question about what Mr. Bryson's going to ask him.
Close the door at any point in time or anything like that. So, but if that was his position, and then the door probably could not have been closed.
So when I look at photos, would you have moved Mr. or Mrs. Bond prior to photos being taken?
I never took any photos. I can't imagine that anybody else would take photos.
I can't imagine that anybody else. Let's see if he answers.
Or would have moved anybody.
And I'm referring to.
I can't imagine anybody would have moved anybody. And he stumbled into the photos thing. Okay.
The crime scene photos. But that's my question. To your knowledge, did you or anyone else?
I've never seen those photos, and I can't speak as to whether anybody would or would not. But
what did you just say? What did he just say?
My question to your knowledge, did you or anyone else?
I've never seen those photos, and I can't speak as to whether anybody would or would not. But
I cannot speak to whether anybody would or would not. Would or would not what? What was the question? Would or would not take photos? What was the question?
Would you have moved Mr. or Mrs. Bond prior to photos being taken? Would you have moved Mr. or Mrs. Bond prior to photos being taken?
He can't imagine anybody would, and then it becomes
I can't speak as to whether anybody would or would not. But
this is the police that we're talking about. You can't imagine. I can't speak as to whether anybody would or would not. You're the police. You can't speak as to whether somebody would or would not move bodies.
from my work previously with the forensic identification specialist,
Aha.
everything is photographed as it is found.
And then he stumbles back into the question. So he never answers it. That's a huge red flag. Huge red flag. Why is Josh asking that? He avoided it completely. And why is Josh asking that? Nikki brought that document up. Do you have the document number handy? Thank you for finding that. Raymakers. What the fuck is that filed under, too? It's Harry and Corey, and it's filed under a different mass casualty supplementary report, is it? For somebody else. Do you have the comm number handy? Raymakers? I can't speak to that thing if I was present. I was present. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter if he was or was not present. I mean, yes, I guess if he's being extremely technical, he can say, well, even if he wasn't there, which is not really part of the point. Do police move bodies? Is that part of their job? No. So it should be a fairly easy question to answer. No, bodies don't get moved. We don't move bodies. That's not what we do. Instead, he wants to fuck around with it and not answer it. And it fucks him up too. Do you have that document handy, Nikki? Because I was confused. And then she was the one that found the document, posted it in a live stream when I was talking about why the fuck is he having a problem with this one? That's a suspect. That I can see. People that have been deceased because I'm pretty sure they're going to tell the families that they, like all of the other ones I've heard, everybody was deceased immediately. You're not going to handle moving around either dying people, in which case they should be going to the hospital, or dead people. You don't do it. The document number, Bonds, Corey and Harry with Raymakers. Oh, yeah, there's summary. Can you give me the comm number, please? I'm going to grab a coffee. I'm going somewhere with this too. There'll be more. Five, 9. Five, 8897. Okay, this is their. See, I didn't understand this. Sorry, that's where I'm getting that from. Why is that heading summary of meeting with family of Sean McLeod? Okay. Anyway, moving along. I believe I have it highlighted. So they have a conversation. Harry has a conversation with Sergeant Raymakers. Harry asked Sergeant Raymakers whether it was his mother who answered the door for the perpetrator because she was the one who always answered the door. Sergeant Raymakers told him it was his mother, although Sergeant Raymakers led them to believe that it was their mother at the door. They later discovered this was not true. It was their father that was found at the door. And I think then, do we have a moment? So, keeping in mind all these other pieces, like Okay, if there's a body laying in the door, why didn't Mr. Dorrington see it when he was down there? Right? Okay. Nobody's going down there. Nobody wants to go down there. The person who seems to open this can of whoop ass is now public enemy number one. The sketch that Harry and Corey's lawyers obtained from the RCMP did not accurately portray blood spots that Harry and Corey personally discovered in the home. This is because they asked to see the home before it was cleaned, which God love them that they have that much fortitude. Frankly, you have to, because these people are crooks. The blood spot inside the door was correct, but the blood spot in the living room was totally wrong. In the sketch, there was a blood spot in the left-hand corner of the room, near the couch, the wall and table. But there was no blood spots in that corner where Harry and Corey entered the house. The blood spot instead was right up against the coffee table over by the picture window. There was also something over the father's chair. The sketch displayed number one victim at the entrance of the kitchen. That was correct. The sketch displayed number two victim in the left-hand corner of the couch, and the wall where the left-hand couch of the left-hand corner of the couch and wall mat near the end table. That was incorrect. Number two was out in front of the coffee table to the right of the couch, 2.5 feet from the picture window. The coffee table was pushed up against the Chesterfield. Now, I'm doing this on the fly, and I want to just check this here. Male at door, female on floor, beside couch behind door nearby. Beside couch, behind door. This one I'm just checking on my own. But there were no blood spots in the corner, left-hand corner, near the couch. I'd have to see the layout of their house, but I'm very curious. Is this why when Skipper came to give his testimony, they covered it up? Is that part of the problem? Okay. So we've got some groundwork done so far. I'm going to continue, but I'm going to get a coffee. Howdy, sad. Article says, I don't want any more goddamn technology. If we've got fucking crooks, we've got to weed them out. And that just requires people being, stop this nanny state and tech state that everything's going to take care of you, because it ain't. It hasn't. And all it does is give them more. One moment. Okay, let's keep going on Cobequid. I'm sorry, I wish I was super prepared person, and my mind makes sense when you're in my head, but getting there, it's a little bit more difficult for other people. Okay. Now I'm going to back up a little bit to Jarrett's discovery of the bodies. So I think they've got a fairly strong case for the moving of bodies. Where did I go here with? All right, here it was. We'll just finish that out too, because it's their statement here. If they wouldn't have entered the house, they would not have known that the sketch was wrong. They would not have known that the sketch was wrong. Okay, so it's the sketch that has to be wrong. In retrospect, Harry is glad that he listened to his gut. I will say this is not the first case family that I'm aware of where this is a difficult thing. Problems with the sketches, i.e., maybe this isn't the only case of this, where there seems to be bodies moving. Oh, did she say that on here? Maybe it happened down the street too. There's questions. Let's see. Not good. Not good. Not good at all.
When I look at photos, would you have moved Mr. or Mrs. Bond prior to photos being taken?
I never took any photos. I can't imagine that anybody else would take photos or would have moved anybody.
You can't imagine that.
The crime scene photos. But that's my question. To your knowledge, did you or anyone else?
I've never seen those photos, and I can't speak as to whether anybody would or would not. But
then I'll tell you what, because there's a lot of questions that are raised right there. Why aren't the photographers coming in? Why isn't every single person who was involved with that crime scene coming in? Why isn't McKenna coming in? No. And answering questions. Answering questions in front of the MCC. If bodies are being moved, that's a very serious problem. Page 12, medical examiner says she can't tell Harry about inconsistencies because she didn't want to lose her job. Okay, this stuff is really starting to smell very bad. Real bad. All right, now, where was I? Right, Wayne. Let's back up to Jarrett. Jarrett find them bodies, right? Again, I think it was divine. It was just fucking divine. Not that any of this is divine, but I think it was. All right, where are we here? 5:30, right? Okay, 5:30. As I was preparing to leave, he was down there getting meds for Griffin. Seemed very important. Meanwhile, you have that fucking evac poster on your wall. It's now been there for, by this point, 5:30, he says. 5:30, which actually is 45 minutes later. As I was preparing to leave, I was told, was he not on the fucking radio? I was told by general duty member they were tasked in checking all the residences for anyone that may have been who may have been injured. Asked if this was tasked by MCU, told no. Think about this for a moment. Okay? That's going to be your response. Were you tasked with doing that? Checking residents for dead and injured now that you have found people? Asked if I was tasked by MCU. You guys should be getting your fucking ass over there. That's what you should be doing. But no, called Corporal Rose Berthune, who tasked me to go over to all the houses and check for more victims and persons requiring help. It differs a lot from what he says in his testimony, funnily enough, because it seems to be very important when he gives his testimony. He says, oh, my concern was making sure that people were alive, dead, or not injured, and finding what state that they were in. That's not what he was saying. He actually phoned somebody. If that's what you need to do, and you're in this position, then you shouldn't be in that position. Because there could be people dying. And you're asking, were you tasked to do that? I better check with Jerry. I better check and see that that's okay. No. If it's you and somebody says to you, there's somebody dead or possibly injured over there, you're not like, well, I better call somebody else. Were you ordered to do that? No? Okay, well, we better call. Let's just leave people hanging some more. You wouldn't do this to a dog. Literally, you would not. You would put a horse out of its misery if that was, not obviously, I'm not saying that with people. But this is the way that people operate. We have compassion. Where's this fellow's? Gone. Or there's something else really untoward going on, and he's like, oh, fuck, now there's a can of whoop ass opened. Okay. So far we have who involved in this story? We have Wood, Jarrett, Bent, and Forrest. Why does not the notes of, say, Bent say that? All those people. We're now up to 4, right? Wood, Jarrett, Bent, and Forrest. What does his notes say? Jarrett, and himself. Is that it? All houses checked? With Jarrett. All houses checked with Jarrett. Okay, so we're missing Wood, and we're missing Forrest. Interesting. Missing 2 people. Okay. What does... We've got McDonald, Wood, and Bent, according to Jarrett. In his notes, it's Bent, Wood, and McDonald. Okay, that's all keeping pace. Then you've got the logs, because there's going to be somebody else that floats in the picture too. Forest is missing. One moment. Okay, moving along. There's a scene. All right, so Buggy. Can I get one of you guys to head down to 46 for scene security until 6? We'll look to get some relief from there. 10-4, I'll move down. Keeping in mind bodies were just found. Now, Buggy is going to come up here again. Yes, Corporal McDonald right here where I met you next to the house where they're looking for. Okay, 10-4, I'll talk to them down there. Let's see if there's arrangements to be made. Or I'll go and have a look at the house if it comes to it. 10-4, okay. There's going to be another piece I'll throw in here just to make things extra complicated. But if we fast forward, so we have Buggies down there. If we fast forward to this one, let's see here. Does anybody have Brad Wood's phone number? Okay, so Brad's down there. And Dave Lilly's wanting to call him. We have this. H. RTU Personal Radio 3. I don't know what RTU stands for. I haven't figured that one out. Constable Forrest and I are down here checking on Cobequid Court. This is now half an hour later. Can we confirm, and we can confirm that there's at least 2 more bodies inside 45. Looks like 3. 2 more inside. Nobody has discussed anything about 1 more inside. Now there's at least 2 more inside. Maybe 3. (10-4). We see 3 from the doorway. If that's Aaron, he's in the door. So you're not going to talk about 3 inside. 3 inside. You follow? Because 3 is somewhere else. Does anybody else remember where 3 is? While you guys are working on that one, you give me a little bit of time, then that gives me time to figure out RTU Personal 3. Who is that? I probably don't have it open right now, of course. Because they don't want to tell you who people are. So who is the mysterious RTU? RTU, Personal Radio 3, Constable Buggy. This is from the Colchester day logs. But they don't want to tell people that. Cindy's at 3. 45 minutes later. I don't think it's a mistake. Now, where else does 45 appear? So now you've got Buggy. So far you have Wood, Buggy, Jarrett, Bent, Forrest, right? I'll leave that part. Okay. So now if we go over to one moment. Vickers, who is called here Constable P. Vickers, who in fact is Staff Sergeant Paul Vickers, who was, I believe, at the time, this is the only thing he has, is this rough notes. There is no such thing as rough notes. You can tell right away he's a Staff Sergeant 2 or higher rank because of the book. He's using a book. They're not rough notes. Don't call them that because you don't like an entry in here. 448, 46 Cobequid Court, deceased male. Don't know what that's about. 41 Cobequid Court, male, female, deceased. Okay, now we're down to 2 again. And now over at the bonds, we've got 2 males. But it's this entry. That's a Buggy and Forrest. Who is Staff Sergeant Paul Vickers? I'm fairly certain, I'd put $1 down, that he was at the time head of MCU, Major Crimes. He was Jerry Rose's boss. He was Angela's boss. He was Bent's boss. He was the boss. And he's got it in his notebook. Okay. As this stuff climbs up the food chain, you might have a couple errors down low, but things get cleaned out. Let's go to Janice Gray. Chief Superintendent Janice Gray, who's at the top of the food chain there. She's hanging on Crops Officer, who is the man. The man. And Ottawa's got her in there with him. She's very strategically placed on purpose. She talks about all of that in her interview. Down here, let's see, sorry, fast forward a little bit. Here we go. 41, 46 Cobequid Court. Under 46, we just have a singular male now. 41, we have 2 victims, a female and a male. Or is it McDonald's original notes, who was the one who discovered them and said that it was 3? Aaron, Jolene, and Emily. Changing body counts. What time is that? sometime after 3:55, we can obviously presume it's after 4:48. She would have got the info pretty quickly. But then 2 hours later, and did I minimize Victor's notes? What time was Victor's notes? Oh, bollocks, I closed the window. Constable Vickers, my ass. Rough notes, my ass. He doesn't have a time. Shit. Sorry. But this is 2 hours later. 2 hours later, you have 45. Possibly another 3 bodies. Kind of keeping pace with Buggy. 5:30 call. Then, listed underneath there, you have Heidi, Chad, Chad, Daniel Ulmer, Inspector. What the fuck are these regimental numbers doing underneath this? This looks to be a sub entry. Why are they there? Why has nobody inquired about this? Why is it that Constable Buggy is totally off the radar? Like gone. He has nothing on the website. He is referred to in, what is it? The analysis document. Of course, I don't have that conveniently lined up, as always. This is just awesome. It has to be the photos problem. It's got to be everything else problem. But of course, nobody wants to ask. Buggy. There are no handwritten notes or typed member note, typed report contained within relativity. I like the wording, contained within relativity. Meaning there's nothing there even for the lawyers. Nothing there even for the mass casualty. Not that it's we just haven't got it. It's just not there. For Constable Buggy. Task Action Report Constable Buggy COM 0014567 notes the following. Constable Buggy has been off blank. Constable Buggy, who appears to have found 3 bodies, blank, with no anythings, and a task action report that isn't there. And nobody's asking any questions about any of this. wood. Let's do them one by one. So we have nothing from buggy, right? Wood. Oh, nothing from wood. Does the analysis, sorry, one moment. Well, it's cooling off in Calgary. Winter's coming. Feels like Vancouver in the spring. McDonald's notes. You have musical people down there, musical bodies, musical body counts, musical locations, an additional scene. Oh, yeah, sorry. I forgot to throw in the other piece to that. This one just adds more questions. McKenna, Martin McKenna, staff sergeant. Okay? FIS, crime scenes. Right? Crime scenes, forensics. From RCMP Halifax, assigned to Northeast Nova Major Crimes. So we'll just scroll through here quickly. We've got Big Stop. Okay, makes sense. You have 71, 123, 136, 41, 46, 200, 293, 135, 293, okay, 287. Some stuff out in the woods, shoes, whatever. That's all about. Okay, stuff out in the woods. All right. Now, those are all obviously crime scene stuff because, well, what does he do? Crime scene. Forensic Identification Services, FIS. Now, if we go back to here, 7:39 in the evening, 7:39 in the evening, he's going to Aaron's house. He's checking it out. Deceased male located immediately inside door, two females inside second door. Pretty vague, like very vague, but okay. 3 minutes later, pretty speedy, going over to Bonds, right? Okay, so just to keep that in perspective, here we are here. Then he's going over here. Okay. And then he's going to 200. Okay. 8 minutes later. Let's just have a look at that. Okay, so he's down here. He's He's going to drive all the way up here, go all the way down here to over here. Right? Okay. All right. Then he's going to 293. So he's leaving there. And he's going down here. Right? Okay. And, well, that's the end of his day. The next day, 9:15 in the morning, McKenna attended 45 Cobequid Court. Corporal Dean Martin to check on residents. The property was secure, locked, and no one answered the door. McKenna gained access to the property. That's breaking it legally in their way. But I'm sure that they had cause. To the property and checked the interior rooms. There were no persons injured or deceased, and no indication of anything of concern having occurred at the residence. The next morning. Question. Logical. You were down here. The evening before. You were over here. 3 minutes later, you were over here. The residence that you went to the next morning is over here. Seems logical that you kind of would do that. No, you wait till the next day, because instead of going over here, you decide to go all the way over here. And then down here. And then call it a night. And then come back the next morning and then go back down here. And then write a report which only includes crime scenes, and put in there that you gained entry and there was nothing, no persons injured or deceased, and no indication of anything of concern having occurred at the residence. So nothing happened. Did you do that anywhere else in this report? No. My question is, why is it that nobody has followed up on what Chief Super intended? Gray made a notation of. Staff Sergeant Paul Vickers, Staff Sergeant Paul Vickers, head of major crime, made a third notation of also. Janice's is 2 hours after the first discovery. Martin McKenna's going there for no seemingly reason. And nobody asks. And the people that seem to be down there seem to be a little light on the information. Nothing from Wood. Nothing from Buggy. You want to hide buggy even. RTU. Don't tell you who the RTU is. Jarrett's reports, which seem to alter. He only has a member report, and he has the notes. The member report, which is based on the notes, and funnily enough, change. Okay. No interviews, either with RCMP, no interviews with mass casualty. You're batting well now. Bet. You've got funky games going on with his shit because you want to hide where bodies are located. You want to put you want to redact where the bodies are located just prior to when he comes on the stand. Or not the stand. Sorry, my mind is legally geared. To sitting at the funny table. Okay. And you've got Forrest. Forrest, who has a member typed report and an interview. The same Forrest who was riding around with one of the three amigos, Rod McDonald, the head, the one who was calling Dorrington and Lafferty out, the one who was involved in the Susie Bootland, the one who's with Bootland's, Dugan's ex, now the murderer of Bootland. Forrest, the same Forrest that seemingly forgets the fact that he escorted with Rod MacD, Lisa Banfield, who was in the black Jeep Cherokee with Fahey, is it Fahey? Emert sliding over with her bad back. Rod McD is like, oh yeah, we escorted her down to her and the black Cherokee down to the fire hall. Funny. Forrest doesn't remember it because it's not in his typed report and it's not in his interview. And there's no affidavits from any of them. And none of them have been called to give testimony. And nobody was allowed down there, essentially, well, except for a couple key people who happened to be allowed to stay in a crime scene for about 3 weeks. It's a lot of time to clean up mess. The same Rod MacD that's having informal meeting, debriefings, whatever he wants to call them. I think it's referred to in the interview as debriefing, informal debriefing, at his barn over beers with some of the boys. What the fuck is going on? Is there people getting their stories straight and some of them don't go to the meeting? What's going on? And Cobequid is a fucking disaster zone. It's a fucking disaster zone. And they never wanted anybody to go there. What? You went down there? Let me check with Jerry. Let me check and make sure. This thing stinks. 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 But the thing is that there's some evidence there and some names. And God willing, there will be a court case that will go all the way on this one. And we gotta get behind Tara on this. Somehow get her, because they've conveniently used this, and just think about that. If that was your adopted sibling, maybe some of you in here have adopted siblings, and they just suddenly said to you, you know what, you're not really family. You know why? Because TAS 703, because they said, just like she did,
phone ringing, people asking me.
right away, there's fucking big problems. So you throw her on the out list. You deny her what any compassionate human being would never deny somebody else. Familial tie. You leave them hanging. You do the goop. Like this one.
My work previously.
Moved Mr. or Mrs. Bond prior to photos being.
Tara Long arranged for the cleaning initially. I kind of just jumped on her bandwagon for it. She had contacted me and mentioned that she had made contact with a local company about doing this. And so I contacted the company, spoke to them about this, and they confirmed that yes, it was true. It was something that she had spoken to, and that they were going to do it for free of charge. The company, I talked with Guy from the company, and he had mentioned, just let me know when we can get in there. And so on the day when we were able to do the cleaning, I escorted them to the scene because, again, it's still somebody's house, and there's still personal belongings and stuff and potentially valuables inside a house. So
you don't give a shit.
Tara Long, whose biological half-sibling Aaron Tuck was killed in Portapique on the 18th, and also to Scott McLeod, whose brother Sean McLeod was lost in Wentworth on the 19th. I want to ask you a few questions.
cleaning jewelry, helping with insurance companies, all those extra things.
Cleaning services.
Correct?
Her recollection is that she did not do that, and maybe another individual did that. Do you have any basis to disagree that that is not her recollection?
I know in my notes that I wrote that Miss Long, or I believe I
What?
my notes last.
What did you say?
400 plus pages again. I believe it was Miss Long who called about that house in particular and making the arrangements for doing the cleaning.
You better hide back up in none of it. You better hide back up there. That's a lie. That's a fucking bald-faced lie. How much contact did you have with her? How much did you have with her? How much? Did you ask her for some pictures? Wayne? So she could ID her blood brother? His only blood relative? To the best of anybody's understanding, that's still alive. Did you ask for that? Did you ask her to email that to you? Oh, if I had you in the room, sir. Not in a violent way. Not in a violent way. You and I would have words. Do you know why? Because in her sorrow state of losing 3 family members in one night, she hit one key wrong. One. And you didn't get the photos. Did you call her back? Did you ever talk to her again? Not that she can remember. Crickets. Task 703, though. You wanted to do that one. You're not going to live this one down. Not on my watch. You made a big fucking mistake. All of you. All of you. And rather than being men and just doing the right thing and apologizing, you froze somebody out and you fucked with her. And I'm not a keyboard warrior. No. And he knows. Oh, yes, of course. He's not lying at all.
You said earlier this morning that Ms. Long arranged for cleaning services, correct? Her recollection is that she did not do that, and maybe another individual did that. Do you have any basis to disagree that that is not her recollection?
I know in my notes that I wrote that
You know.
Ms. Long, or I believe I read my notes last night, and there were 400 plus pages.
But the bus, you want the bus to go bump over her? Fuck you.
Again, I believe it was
You
Ms.
reviewed
Long
it.
who called
You reviewed
about
it.
that house in particular and making the arrangements for doing the cleaning. Not knowing who Ms. Long was.
No, you never spoke to her. You never spoke to her again. You never even said, I didn't get the photos. What the fuck kind of man are you? You know why? Because she asked questions and she said, you guys probably fucked up. And I know it. And you're treating us all abominably. And she was vocal about it. So then you want to threaten her? On top of it? You have treated this woman horrendously. And there's receipts everywhere. Bad move. Bad move. Okay. Enough venting on my part. And again, it's nothing physical. These people, it's shame. Shame will follow them forever. People won't forget. People won't forget. It doesn't matter where you move to. Everybody gonna know. Because they'll be made known. Why is it nobody has asked any of the important questions to do with 45? Why is it that it appears as though bodies are moving? This stuff is like so beyond stinky, but there's no reason to do any of it. No? Always good to keep insurance elsewhere too. You know. I like insurance. I do insurance. Not life insurance. Like monetary wise. I just leave things with other people. Not a lot of comments. A lot of silence. I'm seeing. Well, there's a lot of smell. Yeah. And that's just like, there's so many layers of stink on this one. You've got an organization that's been broken, corrupt nepotism, box checking, bus rolling over everybody, harvesting data on everybody, politicians and everything. I still need to put that video together. Maybe I'll put it together tonight and put it out the next hearing down in Parliament, which is actually was quite a while ago, but I haven't got it out. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's the friends that you keep and who you are too, right? You start raising questions. Oh, gotta run over. And they did. They left her on, but not only did they leave her on the outside, they did a lot of other things. TAS 703, I want to see TAS 703. I want to see TAS 703. Unredacted. Because she was upset. I want to see the version, I want to see it, but don't redact it. I'm pretty sure I have an idea what it's about. For those of you that don't know, Tara made a video. She referred to it. She was very upset. And she said some things that she regretted. She was probably intoxicated. I don't know that for sure. But she was definitely out of her mind. As in with just absolute terror and not knowing anything. And she was upset. And she said some things that probably she shouldn't have said. But I'd like to go through this world and if I can look back in my life and I'm like, well, I certainly said things I wish I hadn't said. That's kind of human nature. We do that. And especially given the circumstances, it's understandable. They've been running cover and deflection on Cobequid for a long time. The MCC has injected a ton of goo since the discussing of brass tacks. April to May and May. muddy the water. They just thrown out tons of shit. Tons. Right from the beginning, one of this videos where when she took a video down, it was that night. It was that night. And she took it down. She's like, oh, she called me. I vaguely can recall it. And she's like, I have this video of it. And I said, Tara, I understand where you're at, but I just don't think that that's appropriate. She's like, yeah, no, I know. I just was really upset. And I'm like, I know you're upset. Who could blame you? Nobody's going to blame you for that. Instead, you want to turn on her. But I think it's because I just think, and I know this may sound crazy to some people, but I really do think that not only is it because she asked questions, but it's because she made that phone call. And Rodney Peterson, who probably didn't know better, and reading his statements, he seems to doubt whether he should do that anymore, took the phone call. And that opened up Cobequid. And I don't think they were ready. The cell merchant Patton ran towards flames and away from audible gunfire that night. All the families that were just left waiting. Just waiting. All of them. No, that's not. Some of them were informed on more quickly than others, but even then, it was like pulling teeth. This is not the way that you do things. You don't investigate by having parades. You don't investigate by investigating others. You certainly don't investigate by running cover ops like IMT, H Strong 2, which is my next target after this one. I'll continue to dig on this forever. But big fish, that's where we got to refocus. H Strong 2, IMT. That's where it's at. Because they're just gonna move along. They're just gonna move along. They'll give them some airplay this week. How much? Time it out. And we'll all see. All of the other shit that they threw at us that had nothing to do with anything. The most affected people. The biggest liars of all. Deceivers. Weeping and gnashing of teeth there shall be for eternity. I don't believe in God, says they. Fair enough. Watch and wait. It's understandable. And she took it back, but, she asks questions. She opened up Cobequid. Those are the reasons that she's vilified. They knew, and they did it in the media. They absolutely, totaled her in the media all along. They were all towing that line too. And those people equally. I think there's only one. I don't even know. I bet you O'Dear has it. It would be back in that video on the first anniversary. That's a video. That's a video I should have played. The first anniversary. Anniversary. What the fuck? I mean, what do you call it? There isn't a name for it. Where is that here? Hopefully they haven't removed some of that.
And you will see it.
That was weird. Red coat guy. You're fucking psyop. BS. Junk.
It's quite powerful statement in my mind, but so we're going to read this on behalf of the families. And thank you. So,
This was grassroots, and
so 1 year ago, on April 18th and 19th, 2020,
though many families were involved, it was Tara that originally started it. You know, they wanted to do their run before they shit the bed because they were exposed.
William and I, our lives were changed.
Fold this into it.
Our families were more resourceful than ever. They will be in our hearts and our minds. Right from the very start, the problem
Is that a question, Seth?
From every hand, from every province.
You mean on people asking questions? It's not a question. That's a statement.
And the baby with their own hands for us in memory of our loved ones. This was an act of evil. You know, for one of the things we will always remember and cherish. How much good and love that we go to this tragedy because of you have all shown it to us. A special thank you to all Blue Nosers that took this walk with us almost a year ago. They helped us fight for a public inquiry. We could not have done it without all of you great people that were there holding our backs up when we couldn't even stand on our own 2 feet. So a heartfelt thank you. Just does not seem to be sufficient. We will hold you close in our hearts. All of those who have been there in our
Nick was outside that day. There's a few of them.
Always answer their calls. We just stood in some and other hands. Not for just a look that meant the world to us. We will never forget each one of you this year from hell. Our family just so we do. Strangers and neighbors and stuff help fight to us. To help us fight for justice and for our 23 loved ones that were murdered that weekend. The words that you described, just telling the love you have shown for our family in many powerful ways. Our two counselors, and I've been told I can't take this episode. Our two counselors, Don Taggart and Marie Benoit, and our mayor, Christine Blair.
Okay, let's just skip the politician stuff. Where was the I don't think it was. There was one newscast that framed it in the light of families. All the other ones wanted to throw it into the fucking what do you call it? Legacy. The legacy that's such a legacy, it's gone poof. Went poof right away. Too many ties to too many different things. Oh, what's that? I'll have to find that. I know I'm pretty sure that and then you had the malicious article come out from Globe and Mail. Nice. Saying that they just paint her in such a negative light. Global one. Global goo. I don't even know where that is then. Oh, is that the wagon?
To remember the 22 people and an unborn baby who were killed in last year's mass shootings in Nova Scotia. Tara Long, the sister of one of the victims, explains why it was important to be there.
Yeah, because we can't forget what happened here a year ago. We can't forget that we were all let down big time. And we need people to be accountable. You can't just not do what you're supposed to do and then, or even worse, do things you're not supposed to do and then end up getting paid to do another job. These poor people and us and our family, our whole province is broken, and none of it's going to get changed until everybody acknowledges what happened.
All of those who have been there.
I mean, I want to listen to that again. I think I went through, what they were doing in the media in this one. Godfather of propaganda, who would be Bernays, Edward Bernays, Sigmund Freud's nephew. Todd will know. Very interesting history. There we go. Okay, now, I wanted to go poof. That's the thing. What did I say? What was it before? They disappeared some stuff. This article will be permanently gone very fast, but if you click on the cached version, you'll get, of course, because I've used up my articles, you'll get this warning, and then this. So I can open it up somewhere else. Here's the march, the film that they took. Somebody did and shared with them. I don't know if Saltwire does that. Which maybe we should watch, actually, before it goes poof. We should get a permanent record of it. That would be good. I believe I shared the audio. Actually, let me kick this and make sure I did. Excuse me. Got to have permanent records of this stuff because it does go poof. And they want it to go poof. That's the thing.
Over 200 people marched to the RCMP detachment in Bible Hill on Sunday afternoon. They were there to remember the 22 people and unborn baby who were killed in last year's mass shootings in Nova Scotia. Tara Long,
Is that the speaker? I don't know. Oh, it is. I remember when I read something about that, or somebody put it in the chat, and they're like, "Oh, you're along for the ride." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "Oh, we're streaming it. We're streaming it. We're streaming you, and you're riding around the wheelbarrow." And I'm like, "What the fuck, man? What are you talking about riding around in a wheelbarrow? I'm in Calgary." "Oh, no. That's you? Oh, thank you. Thank you. That was very kind of you. I'm just glad that you took me along for the ride. You could have just muted me, but which probably would have been better, but it was good to be with you.
The sister of one of the victims explains why it was important to be there.
Yeah, because we can't forget what happened here a year ago. We can't forget that we were all let down big time, and we need people to be accountable. You can't just not do what you're supposed to do and then or even worse, do things you're not supposed to do and then end up getting paid to do another job. These poor people and us and our family, our whole province is broken, and none of it's going to get changed until everybody acknowledges what happened.
To all of those who have been there in our family's darkest hours, night after night, for hours, you listened to us, but you still always answered our calls, or you just stood in silence and held our hands. A hug or just a look that meant the world to us. We will never forget each one of you.
Aw. You know, and all the families that turned out, you know, came together. Didn't run around, didn't do whatever goo was going on, running and concerts and other stuff. It was standing and remembering. And I'll tell you, I was told that the roses is going to be the thing, and it will get to some of those members. It will absolutely get to them. Yes, awesome, Linda. Thank you for taking me along. I was just, I don't know, I'll have to find that place where in that video, where I'm like, it came up in the chat. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? But you see, family, all there together. Not everybody, but a lot of them. And that's the way it should be, with a lot of support. Just good Nova Scotians coming out. You know, here in Calgary, we had fuck all. I was very upset, but I guess just don't have the Nova Scotia spirit here. I don't know. Plus, too many fucking NIMBYs and people influenced by media.
That so lovingly helped us through this year from hell. Our families are just so overjoyed to be able to live in our small but beautiful, caring communities that we do, where strangers and neighbors have stepped up to help us fight for justice and for our 23 loved ones that were murdered that weekend. There are no words that can describe the love you have shown to our families in so many powerful ways.
And it's not Tom speaking, so it's a message from family. It's good to get a record of this. I did archive this. Let's see if I can get that. The video, however, I can probably try and use the inspect tool and maybe download or do a screen record. I think O'Dear does screen record as well, so it might be good to have that. Now, for those of you who have capabilities in that area. Let's go, where was it here? Uh-oh, radio. Here we go. So, original logo, written by Chelsea Gould. I believe we read through it in an upcoming March, mark the 1-year anniversary. So this then got updated, right? Because this is the old version. I believe I read through it the other night. And that morphs into this version, which was the version that we were just looking at. Okay. And more than 200 people gathered at the Foodland parking lot in Bible Hill on Sunday, smiling as they saw each other, enjoyed coffee served from a truck tailgate, but also shedding tears as they grieved the 22 people and unborn baby killed in last year's attacks in Nova Scotia. They walked, led by Tara Long, sister of Aaron Tuck, who was killed with partner Jolene Oliver and daughter Emily Tuck. At one point, Long stopped along the sidewalk to embrace two older women who had come, who were watching in tears. Family and community members marched along Pictou Road to the nearby Colchester County RCMP detachment. They have unanswered questions about what happened 1 year ago when friends and relatives were killed by the gunman posing as an RCMP officer. Those with connections to the victims had red roses and victims' names, with victims' names to the to an RCMP officer. The roses were placed at the base of a pole flying a Canadian flag. And there we actually have the face, right? From the municipality of Colchester, Councillor Tom Taggart read a statement from the victims' families, and Councillor Marie Benoit read out the victims' names. Beautiful. 23 beautiful souls were stolen from us in the blink of an eye. Our lives were changed forever, read Taggart. Our families will mourn these loved ones forever. But one of the things we will always remember and cherish is how good and how much good and love came out of this tragedy. You have shown it to us. RCMP officers welcomed Long and provided a speaker and microphone. Very good. She thanked them and the crowd, saying she wished she had they had met at a barbecue rather than because of horrific events of last year. Quote, everyone has lost something, at least something. We're all here together, Long said to the crowd. Please make sure if you see someone struggling or you think that someone might be struggling, reach out to them. We can't leave anyone behind because we've all been left behind. Long believes there needs to be accountability from the RCMP authorities. A year ago, we can't forget, we were all let down big time, she said, prior to the march. And we all need people to be held accountable. Our province is broken, and none of it is going to get changed until everyone acknowledges what happened and points fingers. I don't understand how someone can just go on a shooting spree for 13 hours. This is mismarked, which funnily enough was corrected because Kendall is named, where this is of course Charlene walking with Tara. Wow. It's hard to look at that picture. Sarah Jolamore attended, I hope I have the pronunciation right, attended with her family. Her 16-year-old son was Emily Tuck's boyfriend, and her children loved Tuck like a sister. Quote, there are so many unanswered questions that we all deserve, said Jolamore, who remembers the girl who would hunt and work on dirt bikes with her husband and son. Emily was only 17. She was the youngest one beside the baby that passed. She had her whole life. She had such a bright future. And we have a picture of her, and she's hugging a friend, obviously deeply emotional. The march was, of course, for everybody, and more for some people than others. But it's emotional to everybody. To the RCMP detachment in Bible Hill, Sunday, April 18th, Joel Moore's teenage son was Emily Tuck's boyfriend. Emily Tuck was one of the people killed in last year's shooting. Last July, a similar march from the grocery store to the RCMP detachment demanded a public inquiry. It was led by Nick Beaton, husband of Kristen Beaton, a continuing care assistant who was pregnant when she died in the attacks. Following public pressure, the federal and provincial governments agreed to a provincial inquiry. Families have also filed a class action against the RCMP. The shooting and arson rampage covered more than 150 kilometers, with people killed in Portapique, Wentworth, DeBert, and Shubenacadie area. The gunman evaded police until he was shot dead in Enfield. Residents in some of those communities woke up on the morning of April 19th, 2020, not knowing that there was a gunman on the loose and that neighbors were dead. COVID-19 prevented people from getting together to mourn last year. Gathering is still limited to a degree as the pandemic continues. On Saturday, Oliver's sister, Tammy Oliver McCurdy, organized a rally in Calgary, where Oliver grew up, to also remember the victims and to ask for accountability. Now, it has been corrected. But the thing is, Kendall, I believe this article has gone poof. Do you have a link?
It has not.
Because if I search for this article, I'm not going to get it. Search with, here it is here, right? There's two links to it. There's both the same one. We'll click on it and boom, home page. So unless I'm wrong, which I,
did they put it back up then?
weird. Because it is there today. It's called Red Roses. Red Roses and Names March to RCMP. Now, detachment remembers lives of lost in Nova Scotia. Mass shooting. I think it's right. I'm just looking here. I don't know if there was an update. It obviously can well be. This article has disappeared in 2 days. However, when I was doing some searching, of course, let's just take something else. Here we go. Okay. We have this article, anniversary event, remembering Nova Scotia victims coming to Truro. There are 0 issues. Okay, so they created a new link. Is that it? They created a new link. Because this is the only article that actually lists, that actually discusses the march, to the best of my knowledge, in its entirety. all the other articles, which we can have a quick flip through, discuss these other events that took place. No, the link is original and I will send it to you. Why is it not opening for me then? Okay.
Probably some techno goo. I don't know if they changed, maybe. Red Roses, I don't think that was the title.
It's not working on my end. One moment, please. Okay, so they've changed it. Interesting. Okay, why have they changed it then? What's different about this article? So there is another one. Why have they changed it? The title is different. So let's have a look at why. It's also premium content. So here's the new article. Red Roses and Names. March to RCMP detachment remembers lives lost in Nova Scotia mass shooting. Posted a day ago. Okay. More than 200 people gathered at the Foodland parking lot in Bible Hill Sunday, smiling as they each saw each other. I believe the video is still the same. 1 minute, 50 seconds. Not meaning any disrespect, just checking. Okay, it looks to be the same. Enjoying coffee at the tailgate, led by Tara Long. Okay, we have some different pictures now. Those with connections to the victims handed red roses with victims' names to an RCMP officer. Roses were later placed at the base of a pole flying a Canadian flag. That's different. A year ago, we can't forget, all let down big time, she said, prior to the march, and we need people to be held accountable. Charlene. Interesting. All right. Well, then I'm going to archive this article. Also, it's interesting that they would remove the other one, but maybe that's just something else. So I guess they changed a photo and put in the red roses part and the RCMP laying them down. That was the difference. But I do believe that that's actually still the case. I'd have to search around, but I think that that's the only article that keeps it just solely dedicated to that. Every other article that came out around that time frame was all to do with legacy. And legacy, actually, they folded in the Bible Hill March into the legacy stuff and kind of, I would say, kind of co-opted it and kind of made it like it was part of it, which it wasn't at all. The sheer absence of articles on the story, though, but like I said, we can plug through it and you're going to see a consistent pattern, which I can get into some other stuff, which I really don't want. Oh, well, we can welcome Albion. He seems like a winner. Chicken dinner. Okay, so they're hiding that one behind a paywall as well. Oh yeah, there's the Globe and Mail one there. The dishes are. Again, it's not the Terra show, but it's like it was the point. The point, you ask questions, this is what happens. This is what happens. The bus goes boom, bump over you. And the media is good with that. That's what they're supposed to do too. I have a 1:51. Is the video embedded in the article gone now, or is it just me? No, it's gone. It's still there. It's still there. I think I've got it somewhere on my channel. I think, but definitely O'Dear has it. It's just blank. Maybe a browser issue. Those happen. Then we had the global one we reviewed. And of course, you get what's going on here. The 1-year anniversary with Justin Trudeau. Okay. And you'll get mentioned. This is the thing I want people to see. Lots of these articles and things like that go into other places. This one we went through, I believe. Where's this one? A different one. Okay, we got into Bergerman and Bergerman's mass commission. I believe we went through this. And of course, then we have the link to the memorial and the marathon. Frankly, has nothing to do with the price of tea in China, but does it? Yes, of course it does. CBC. Why? What purpose do you think the other one serves? Nova Scotia memorials mark first anniversary of shootings. Tragedy has weighed heavily on Nova Scotians, remain unanswered. Okay. Honoring victims last year's killing with memorial race, special ceremony, moment of silence. Okay. We're talking about running, and then, you know, how this is community and strength and running. And then we go into the story, more into the story. And, well, that has no mention. Aha. So that's been scrubbed. Oh, no, sorry. Let me continue. Nova Scotia remembers legacy. Okay, continuing on. Runners, continuing on. Families, okay. Each mile, running. Okay, we got the name of whoever won the race. Good stuff. Decided to run the marathon to express his sympathies. But I'm not hearing anything about justice in any of this one. Notice that? More about running, draw strength, running. Proceeds of the race will, of course, will go to the memorial, permanent memorial, which will be years in the making. And we go down into Premier and Rankin, still talking about Rankin, pictures of the busy. We got Trudeau, pandemic, flowers, and then you get this. Do you know how far people read generally? There's lots of studies on how far people read. Okay, so the people who want answers, where do you go? You go to the back of the line. Why? Why do you think that is? Do a search on Nova Scotia Legacy. Do you know how many hits you're going to get? We can try. So you have some, oops, actually I should have done this. I think I've already done that, but You're Not Alone, Memorial Service, okay, Canadian Press, Lone Bagpiper to the Church, First United Church, Trudeau. Of course, who organized the one at the church, right? Who organized all of that? You know who organized it? You have to know by this point in time. You have to know by this point in time who really organized that, right? Because you know when you're displaced from your home, crashing on your friend's couch as your neighbors and friends have died all around you, you're setting up websites, organizing vigils, and you know all these people, of course, these famous artists and the prime minister. Logic? Flawed, majorly. Let's continue. Still goes on. Races. We have the mention of Wayne and his beautiful sculpture. And it is. Had some difficulties finding a place for it. The anniversary was also marked at the RCMP detachment nearby by Bible Hill, where some protesters posted their dismay with the Mounties' response in Canada. In one of, okay, that's a misnomer. One of, it is the worst mass killing, mass murder in Canadian history. Tara Long's history of Aaron Tuck. One of the victims says she's still struggling how somebody could go on a shooting spree for 13 hours. Our province is sad. Shouldn't be able to happen here. Before the march began under darkened skies, Sarah Gillimore and her family was close to one of the victims, said she attended the march to remember lost lives and call for transparency from the police. There are still so many unanswered questions that we all deserve to know. We need to know, we need to work better and do just, to do better and just be better. Excellent. Wow. That's very noble. It's a lot better than the dialectical behavioral therapy, staying present stuff. Those of you who aren't familiar with dialectical behavioral therapy, that might not make sense, but a certain person is using a lot of that. Still so many unanswered. Nova Scotia RCMP, and then there we go. That's the mention. That's it. Oh, sorry. My apologies. That. Okay? You seeing a pattern? You pontificate? Excellent. Okay. Not alone. Memorial service. Shootings. Same thing. Canadian Press. This is probably the same article. Yep. Same article. Okay. So you got paywall articles and then iHeart articles and Kamloops Now. And there you go. You're done. That's all you need to know. The rest of it, I don't know. Do I do the search? Then on Legacy? Yeah, I will. Knowing me. Oh, wait, I found there was a couple more on Bible Hill. Let's see. Anyway, but this was all part of the war room. The IMT, 8 strong 2. How can we manage this? Oh, we'll pump out propaganda everywhere. Anyway, I've been streaming for a long time, and you guys are, wow, 40 of you. More, I don't know. Who knows? But God bless you all. And because tomorrow's going to be, this week will be a big day. We're going to hear from the lawyers on behalf of, I believe, the families, which doesn't quite have the same effect, but I don't think. But, families got to do what they got to feel comfortable with. That's what's really important. Everybody's got to, because that's the thing. These people were, are, and forever will be truly the most impacted, devastated people in the story. And yet, you leave them to the last minute. They're going to throw in the women's stuff. They're going to throw in all kinds of other stuff to muddle the mind. We'll see how it's strategically done. And watch your emotions as you watch it. You'll probably get really upset, really pissed, really upset. Upset with the RCMP, upset with the process, but along in there, they'll have it so that people's minds get soothed and muddled a little bit into other stuff, and then it just kind of drifts away. It's so subversive and disgusting how they do things. But you guys have kept it all alive. And that's, I can't underscore how much you have done. I never will be able to. And that's you. You have to, I'm speaking to each of you individually. With what you do, by sharing, by watching, by paying attention, by researching, by sharing what you're coming across with, schooling me when I'm wrong. This is how we're going to get some answers, because they deserve answers. There, but for the grace of God, go I. Special prayers. Pray for all the 23. Pray for them all. You're the people in the crowd standing there. And it's not like just people who have been devastated and feel alone. I'm not a family member, but I sure thank you. I know what it does for me to have your guys' support. I will see you tomorrow, bright and early. God bless you all. God bless the 23.